Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, along with my friend Kathy.
Hey y'all.
And we have week 27 of Ask a Crafter for you today. Very exciting. I want to thank everyone that liked the Facebook page. We have 1,000 fans, likers, whatever, friends there, so that's awesome.
Spectacular.
And I just wanted to, I had a request on the video last week to show how to incorporate handmade beads and acrylic beads and glass beads on a necklace, so I did this tutorial, and that is on my YouTube channel. I'll put a link under the video. Try to remember that, or someone will remind me, I'm sure. But it is, go right to my YouTube channel. It should be right on the front page. And that's it for comments right now. We might get to some more at the end of the video, but I want to get right into the questions.
Okay, well, for that we have first one. What paper do you suggest for making envelopes? And this is from Sue.
I like the paper in the 180 sheet stacks from like Die Cuts with a View, and K & Company makes some, so does My Mind's Eye. You can get those stacks for about $10 at the craft store on sale, and after I've used up all the paper that I really like, then I take the leftovers and I make envelopes. Because you have to remember, one side is blank, it's just white, so you can always use the white side on the outside of your envelope, and then it looks like it's lined. Even if you don't love the paper, you can still find something that will match your card pretty well.
Okay, and Virginia asks, I have a pack of oil pastels and I can't really think of anything to use them for. Do you have any ideas? What's your favorite type of oil pastel?
My favorite oil pastel are the Portfolio pastels from Crayola, and it's kind of a misnomer. It's weird, but they are water-soluble oil pastels, so you can use them in place of gelatos and watercolor crayons and, you know, even watercolor paints. They're just really fun, but they're thicker than watercolor pencils or paints. They're just kind of like a creamy, lipstick-like consistency, very much like gelatos. For regular oil pastels, which probably are what you have, the oil-based ones, I like to use them to sketch out a picture before I'm going to paint it in oils. Or you can use them on textured paper, because you can get a lot of pigment off of the pastel if you have textured paper, because it grabs it. So for any sort of sketching, drawing, even painting, you can layer your colors so you get a nice thick oil paint look. So those would be my suggestions on what to use it for. Oh, another thing is you could take a piece of cardstock, color it with crazy bright oil pastels, and then color over it really darkly with a black oil pastel, and you have a scratch board.
Linda Bloom is having a hard time working with Portfolio pastels and wants some tips.
All right, my suggestion would be to work on a textured surface, such as Can't Send Me Tints paper or matte board scraps that have a little bit of a texture, because it's got to have some texture, or it's just kind of slick off and like kind of ball up and scrape up. You gotta have something that it's going to grab. A pastel paper, any sort of paper with some texture, even a watercolor paper. So try that, and I think you'll be more pleased with the results.
Okay, and Henry Cruiser asks, I inherited several bunches of wire for crafting or jewelry making. I've seen several things I'd like to do which specify a certain gauge of wire, many from your channel, but I'm clueless as to what gauge wire each of these rolls is, or as there are no tags or markings. Is there any way to find out the size wire rather than just experiment?
What I would do is go to firemountaingems.com and request a free catalog, because their beads and wire and findings are all photographed in actual size. So you can take the wire and hold it right up to the picture and pretty closely determine what you have.
But just don't look at any of the rest of the catalog.
Yeah, you'll want to do some shopping. Oh, you know what? We totally didn't even mention that the reason it looks different this week is because it's 50 degrees in my studio. 50 degrees, people. And I got a fireplace right over there. It's cranking out some heat, so we're upstairs today.
And Gail asks, have you done or will you ever do a tutorial on twinkling H2Os?
Well, I don't have any twinkling H2Os. I do have some metallic watercolors. You have twinkling H2Os.
Apparently that's what you tell me.
Yeah. Maybe I will see if I can come up with something, but you know, you can use, just think of it like watercolors for dark paper. And going with that theme, I think you'd be able to come up with some pretty cool stuff to try.
Okay, and Hannah asks, hey Lindsay, I want to buy some marker pens to color in my stamped images, drawings, etc. And I just wanted to know which brand would be best to start with that have a good variety of colors, good skin tones, blend well, and basically are good quality. Thanks.
For a beginner, and I really enjoy these markers, I would recommend Pro Markers by Letraset, and I would recommend getting the blending kits. And they came out a couple of years ago. You get 12 markers, you get 2 colors of each shade, so they're designed to blend together, so you'll have like if you're getting the pastel set, you'd get like a buttery yellow, and then you get like a like a vanilla yellow. So you'd have colors that were going to blend really well together. So you have 12 colors plus a blender. What I would recommend starting with would be the pastel set, and then maybe the muted set. And then the vivid set's really nice, but I think you'd get more for your money if you got a set of 36 Bic markets, because the blending sets from Pro Marker are about $24, and the set of 36 Bic markets is about $20. So, you know, you get more markers, but those Bic markets are really, really vivid. So I would suggest starting off with the pastel and muted shades of the Pro Markers, and then, and those are called the Pro Marker blending kits. You can find them on promarker.com, or no, letraset.com, or you might get better deals if you search around and see what you can find. But I will put a link down to the Letraset webpage if you want to go check it out. But I would recommend those because they blend really well, and they're easy to use, and they're not very expensive. And if you need to replace a marker, it's like, $2 usually, maybe up to $4. It depends on where you're buying it from. They're not refillable in the traditional sense. I mean, yeah, I guess you could, fill it, but they're not really designed for that. But I haven't had any of mine go dry, unlike the Spectrum Noirs where I bought them and then haven't even used them and they've gone dry and I had to rejuice them. So I would recommend Pro Marker. If you're in an area where you can't find Pro Markers, Prismacolors are also very good and for about the same price. And you can choose, the blending sets I had have a bullet tip on one end and a chisel on the other, so I don't know if they make the blending set with the brush tip ends, but they do have Pro Markers with brush tip ends. I think they're called Flex. Pro Marker Flex or something like that. So they do have them with a brush tip if you prefer for their open stock markers. But.
And Patricia says that she's getting a new dedicated scrap and stamp area. Hooray for you! I plan to paint the concrete floor a vibrant red. I would like some sparkle to it. Can I add glitter or mica powder to concrete paint?
They make an additive, I think, at the hardware store that you can buy. You probably would put it in an epoxy and do like an epoxy coat so it's easy to clean. They make it so you can seal your basement and garage floors so they're washable, like to prevent oil slicks and stuff like that.
Right.
Just make sure that that it's not too slick because you don't want to slip and get hurt or anything. But that's what I would do. I'd go to the hardware store and get an additive. It'll be cheaper than getting like little pots of glitter, I think, and probably more reflective.
And Sheila Johnson says she has been on a paper bowl making kit lately and loving it. Bowls wrapped in plastic wrap, then layers of paper. I've been using Mod Podge. Do you think it is better to use a glue and water or flour and water solution? I think it would be more frugal, but I'm not sure if it will be as stable or as long lasting. Thanks.
Well, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think you can go wrong with Mod Podge. I buy it by the gallon and I just refill my little container. I think it goes a lot further than your regular white glue. It's more of a gelatinous consistency and it dries with a clearer sheen, like a clearer gloss. It just doesn't seem to. It just seems to be more vivid. Your projects are a little more vivid when you're done. I would use Mod Podge, but then sometimes Mod Podge, especially the gloss, will remain tacky. So I would give it a spray of like Krylon sealer when you're all done, and that'll make it super duper durable. So that's what I would do. I don't think I mean, you can use watered down glue, absolutely, but I think that I think you're gonna save more in the long run just by using the Mod Podge. It's useful for so many things.
Right. And I think too, as far as like stability or lasting, wouldn't that be more open to like mildews and
especially on paper. I wouldn't do that unless you're planning on painting it with acrylics afterwards and giving it a nice coat of something, because and it could, if it got wet, it would be ruined, and it can get bugs and just it's paper, it's flour and water. Things like to chew on that.
And Barbara asks, I have maybe 12 to 15 Stampin' Up! Craft ink pads that I've had for years and years. Now to find out that the re-inkers and the craft ink only come in black and white. Can I order the colors in the classic re-inks and add glycerin, or just use as a classic ink pad, or heaven forbid, throw the pads away?
All right, I would not try to switch it over to be a classic ink pad because it's very spongy. It's not going to distribute your ink, the classic ink as well. And I don't think I would recommend using the classic ink plus glycerin. That would work, but it would be a very opaque, it'd be a very transparent ink. It wouldn't give you that thick opaque craft ink that you like, which is assumably why you bought them. What I do, I have a video on how to make your own pigment ink. It's very easy. You just go to the craft,
right?
Yeah, with the gouache. You go to the craft store and you buy a set of gouache. And there's Reeves makes an inexpensive set of 12 for about $10, or it might even be 18 for $10. It's not pricey. And then you take like a pea-sized dab of the gouache, and you take about the same amount of glycerin, mix it together. I use an old credit card or an old gift card to mix it together on a tile, and then I scoop it up and I slather it on the ink pad, and it's good as new. And if it does tend to get a little, if it doesn't seem like the ink is wet enough, then you can give it a little spritz of water then if you need to.
And Susie wants to know how to preserve her watercolor paintings. She can't afford to frame them all, so she's wondering if it would be sufficient to file them away in a portfolio or what.
Well, you certainly can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. What I do is, because I also sell my paintings, is I'll cut mats for them. And I do have a video on how to cut a mat, so you don't have to buy anything too expensive, just a $20 handheld mat cutter and a metal straight edge. And you can cut, you know, whatever kind of beveled mat you want. And then I put them in clear bags, and I got an incredible deal on some large plastic clear bags, some 11 by 14s. I think they were closing out at a store. And so I just slide them in there, and I try to keep them all to that size, because those plastic bags in the big sizes can get really expensive. So you don't want to have, you know, 10 sizes hanging around. So I would pick a size. You can even order pre-cut mats like 11 by 14, 16 by 20 in like packs of 10 from Blick Art Materials. And I would just, you know, adhere them to the back of the mat board using like some cloth tape, something archival, and then slide them in the bags, and then they're going to be protected. And then if you decide you want to sell them, they're all ready to go.
Okay, and so where might she be able to track down the bags?
Paper Mart does have them, so I would check them out at Paper Mart. You want the polypropylene bags, and they're also food safe. Not that you'd be packing away that much food in a bag, but those are the ones you want. You want the flat ones, not the gusseted ones. And I'll put a link to those too.
Okay, and then Sarah is looking for ideas for Crayola Twistables.
Okay. Well, when she said that, I immediately thought of the Faber-Castell Design Memory Craft Paper Crafters crayons, which are a twist-up crayon just like that. And if you search that, or you go to the Faber-Castell or the Design Memory Craft blog, there's lots of ideas that they've used those crayons for, and that will be a great jumping off point. But some of the techniques that I saw was like somebody sharpening the crayons, like extending them so they're out past the casing, and then sharpening them, and then dumping the shavings on a canvas, and then heating it with a hairdryer, so, and then like kind of spreading it around with a spatula or a palette knife. Yeah, so there's lots of things. You can draw with the light colors on some watercolor paper and then paint over it with watercolors for a neat resist look. It's just a, you know, something to experiment with. But if you go to the Design Memory Craft blog, I think you'll find some really fun ideas that you can try with those crayons.
Okay, Crafty Ron Mad Granny.
I love that name.
Has just bought some paper clay and some silicone molds. My problem is that I want to color my images from the molds a metallic silver, gold, or pewter. Help! How can I get those metallic colors?
Okay, so, and she also noted, I didn't put it there, but she's from the UK, so she can't find everything that we have. What I would recommend
That's just wrong.
I know, it's not fair.
Sorry, that's just wrong.
Especially with all the paint and pencil companies that are out there, and yarn companies.
The world is
I know.
nowadays. Yeah.
Come on, craft companies. Help out our UK peeps, will ya? All right, so what I would do was I'd take some black acrylic paint, which you should be able to find, just like in the craft store, the kind they paint wood with, like toll painting.
Right.
That's what they call it there. Yeah. Decorative painting. So you paint your, I would paint, if you're going to do pewter, I would paint your little shape black. And then, and this is after you've pressed it, it's dried. It's the, you know, dried clay embellishment. And I would paint it black, and then I would get some silver paint, acrylic paint again, and just kind of dry brush over that, over the dry black paint, and then you'll get a nice pewter look. And you'd want like red paint and gold paint to get a nice red. You paint it first red, gold. Paint the dry clay piece red, and then dry brush gold over it, and you'll have a really rich looking gold. And those are just the bottles of craft paint. They come in 2-ounce bottles. And any hobby store should have them, just acrylic craft paint, and they should have a few metallic colors that will suit your fancy. Or you can paint them like a flat color like black and red, and use metallic rub-ons or rub and buff, or any of those like little pasty shiny colors that you apply with your finger, that you dip in like a pot and you rub over it, anything like that. Or even, you know, dab it with a Versamark pad and dust over some Pearl X or some metallic eyeshadow or something like that, and then seal it when you're done, so you don't have to worry about the color rubbing off.
And what you use for a sealer?
Any sort of spray sealer, I think I want to spray, because I think if you brush it on, it's going to wipe it off.
Too much.
Anything from like aerosol hairspray to fixative to just like a clear spray paint.
Okay. Melly wants to know if there is any way to use alcohol inks on regular cardstock. I know in mixed media they put stuff on, and we're not sure if this is coated cardstock, she's saying, to keep the inks and stuff from drying so fast to get good blending. Anyway, what do you think?
Well, I saw a cool video by Kelly Donovan, and she had painted her journal page with Mod Podge or glue. It was either Mod Podge or glue. It was a PVA product or matte medium or something, and then let it dry, and then she could use acrylics or alcohol inks or whatever on there because it would resist. It would stay on top. It would make it dry slower. So just give it a coating of white glue or Mod Podge, not washable glue. You want something that's going to be kind of permanent. Any sort of sealer like that, or even acrylic paint, and you should be able to do some of those effects on there.
Okay, and last question we have is Stanky626 1973 asked, is the Stampendous Creative Palette Moon Printing Plate the same as a jelly plate or pad?
I think it is. It looks like the same thing to me. I looked at it on the website and I saw a video, I think, and it seemed to be the same thing. A permanent gelatin printing plate. Those are popular nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is that all the questions from that list?
That's all the questions from that list.
Well,
We can go back to yours.
We do. We can go back. We can do a couple of comments. We have a couple minutes left. So we're talking about die cuts last week. Die cut machines, and I mentioned the Eclipse and the Silhouette and the Brother Scan and Cut.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of comments, and several people mentioned Pazzles. They said they've been Pazzle owners for a while. They've had great results, and they're coming out with a new machine with an optical eye. I'm not sure exactly what that does, but I mean, it must do something about finding edges and cutting,
I would
probably.
assume, yeah, it's something similar to scanning, I would assume.
Yep. And I had a couple Silhouette owners, because I had voiced my concern about their consumables being so expensive, and they said on Amazon and Joann.com they've been able to buy the blades for $8 a piece as opposed to $15, so that's good to know. And there's a blade holder for the Silhouette that will take commercial blades, so if you want to buy like a pack of 100 from like a sign cutter or something like that.
And they also said too that as far as the blades go, that they, for everyday use or really using the machine, that they've had them last a year.
Yes,
so
yes, lasting.
That was good news. That's good to know.
Right, and somebody else commented that Cricut's coming out with a new machine called the Explore, and I guess it's due out on the 15th of the month, and it's going to allow you to cut your SVG files. And I looked at that because I was like, really? So I was checking it out, and the reason I didn't do this at the beginning of the video because I was afraid I was going to get on some big Cricut rant. So I just didn't want to, like, you guys listening to me rant about Cricut for 20 minutes. But you do have to use their website in order to convert files. And I think they're kind of adopting the Silhouette business plan where they're offering all the shapes for 99 cents each. And I think they're lowering the prices on the cartridges to like $19.99. And there's a little place where
They have to compete.
they really do.
They had to do something.
Yep. Well, we've seen them at the store. They've been what was it, $10 or so? Those
Yes.
cartridges. These
Yeah.
big bins of Cricut cartridges for $10. It was
Yeah.
it was something. But yeah, and I did look at that Explore machine because I was thinking if there's not a place to plug in a cartridge, that's going to be disappointing. And I did see they did have a place to plug in the cartridge because I think the Mini doesn't. Is that right?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But you know, so there's that. It would be neat. And I'm sure it doesn't work this way because it would just be too convenient and practical for everybody that has a Cricut machine. But it would be neat if they could just plug into the computer with their old Cricut machines and do that.
If they're going to put one out that does it, then they should help out the people that have been customers in the past. Yeah,
because
that
you
would
know
be nice,
it
but
can be done because I run my Cricut off Shortcuts a lot to software and it runs just fine.
I suspect that's not going to be the case though.
Yeah, probably not. Would be neat though. If you're anybody from Cricut's listening, that would be an awfully nice public relations thing to do and make your machines backwards compatible or forwards compatible or whatever. But I wouldn't hold my breath. All right, well, I think that's about it. Is there anything you wanted to mention this week?
No, I don't think so. I think we're good.
All right. Well, if you have any questions for next week's show, leave a comment below, either here on the YouTube channel or on the blog. And, you know, stop by the Facebook group and say hello if you haven't yet, or if you just want to kind of see what everyone's been up to. Yeah. That's it for today. Thumbs up and subscribe if you like this video. Thanks so much for coming by. Until next time, happy crafting.
See ya.